Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our first NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Of course, over the weekend, nothing to talk about where the Saints are concerned because they're playing Monday Night Football tonight against the Baltimore Ravens, and the third of a three-game homestand, 0-2 on the homestand, the aura of invincibility gone at home, but still the streak of 15 straight primetime wins at home in effect, Lenny, and obviously that will be tried very, very much against the Ravens.
Yeah, this is a team that Drew Brees has never beaten, a team that Sean Payton has never beaten, and obviously what we've seen in the last 2 weeks has kind of knock down that wall of, as you said, invincibility, so to speak. And, this is not, except for a couple of injuries, not unlike the team that we saw the 2 weeks before that was a very good team against Green Bay and against Carolina. So are we going to see that type of effort in prime time in front of a national audience, or are we going to see what we saw against San Francisco and Cincinnati? That, of course, is the $64,000 question.
Yep, remains to be seen. Obviously, Justin Forsett has rushed for 5.4 yards per carry, and Jeremy Hill had great success against the Saints. So clearly, the Saints are going to have to limit Forsett and try to make Flacco and their passing game one-dimensional. The Saints, of course, with numerous secondary woes. Keenan Lewis will play. He's not 100%. They should get Pierre Thomas back, maybe Robert Meacham. Stay tuned, and obviously, we'll have a full analysis and a full recap of the game at SportsNola.com immediately following. So check it out. Tulane, of course, coming off of yet another loss, this one at East Carolina. All the questions about their offense last week. Well, again, their offense simply didn't get it done, Lenny. You're not going to get it done not scoring. No, not scoring. You 2 field goals. East Carolina had gone 6 years without holding a team without a touchdown in a game. So it wasn't totally on the offense. I mean, Tanner Lee did throw for over 300 yards in the game. They did move the ball at times. They didn't run the ball in this game. Mm-hmm. And, that has been kind of their bread and butter throughout much of the year. Lee didn't have to do a whole lot because the running game was able to do some things, and they were not able to get the running game established on Saturday in Greenville. And now it's a 3-8 team with a bye week, and one last chance to salvage a win coming up the first Saturday of December against Temple. Yep, that's pretty much all that remains for the Green Wave after the week off this weekend. Of course, LSU had a week off, and the Tigers will play Thursday night against Texas A&M, and obviously these are two teams just looking for positioning for bowl games.
Yeah, who's going to get the better spot in the pecking order? Perhaps I think a lot of this is now, and we're in a new era in terms of, besides just the college football playoff, but the conferences are really more in control of these things. And I think what you're going to see not necessarily a pecking order, but you're going to see these regional type relationships built. I think it's very possible that we see, regardless of what happens on Thursday, we see LSU right back where they started the season, in Houston at the Texas Bowl. And it may not matter whether they're 8-4, 7-5. It's the closest game available to them here. It's just a 4-hour shot from Baton Rouge down the interstate to get to Houston. So we'll see how this all plays out. There are obviously a lot of other games within the region that are possibilities. Jacksonville has been mentioned, a place that LSU's not been for a bowl game since the 80s. So first things first, though, this team has to play a lot better football, particularly on the offensive side against A&M. And you know what? I guess after Saturday with that Arkansas effort against Ole Miss, maybe what we saw against Arkansas doesn't look that bad now.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And then, of course, the New Orleans Pelicans back home, brief homestand, a one-gamer against Sacramento, a team they just beat on their recent West Coast trip in which they went 2-2, which we said would justify a good trip. That's what they ended up, and, of course, it ended with a bang for Anthony Davis with a career-high 43 points. Was brilliant in a victory at Utah against that team that calls themselves Jazz. And we didn't get a chance to see it because that was one of the ones that they didn't choose to televise, and that's a shame because of what Davis did. He has simply been remarkable.
He has. At this point, I think if you stop the season right now, AD would be the MVP of the league.
I agree.
And I don't think there's much of a debate about that at this point. Obviously, what's going to dictate such awards is how your team plays. And this team is playing at a pretty good level because, for the most part, they've been able to keep the core together up until now, although we didn't see much of Omer Sheik on the road trip. And now Eric Gordon with a separated shoulder. Don't know how long he's going to be out with that. He made an appearance at an event on Sunday, arm in a sling, and you just don't know. And that's while Gordon certainly has not played up to his standards, still that's a threat that you've got to consider out there, and a guy who can go off at any given time.
No question. Of course, high school football playoffs will have everything analyzed. We already have some notes on what is going to happen this weekend at sportsnola.com, and we'll have much more as the week progresses. And, of course, Sports Nola TV, Monday night, 6 p.m. on WHNO Channel 20, right ahead of the Saints game with Ricky Jackson and Brian Ellie Walsh and Amy Jones breaking down the Saints game, getting you ready for the Monday night football game with Baltimore and talking Tulane LSU high school as well. So check it out at Sports Nola TV, Monday night, 6 p.m., WHNO Channel 20. I know you'll watch.
I know. You ready for some football?
I think so. Let's go play.
That's if they let us play, we're in big trouble.
Really big trouble. Really big trouble. All right. Thanks, Lenny. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll see you later this week to get ready for a big Turkey Day weekend.
That's our First NBC Bank weekend review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great week, and God bless.